Okay, so Tim, if you can kind of give us a bit of a potted history of yourself, and what was the defining moment that put you on the trajectory you're on now?
I don't know, I guess originally I was in sort of fairly underground bands, just sort of playing around and did my own fanzine, like really traditional things. I guess for like someone who was a bit ethically punk in their attitude, if not in their direct music taste. From that I started a really small singles label, put out some 7-inches from like Block Party and the Rakes and things, and then met my partner Toby, who'd been doing an online music magazine, which is like the other side of what we do, and some club nights. I met him, I was selling this Block Party 7-inch and he was putting on a gig, and so we got talking and founded Transgressive, and we did started doing a label, and then from that we did a publishing company, a management company, did a TV show that span off of the online music magazine, and kept on putting gigs and things, and tried to sort of tie the whole together in a kind of way that carried on some traditional ethics, but in a new kind of perspective, and you know, taking some of those lessons of great indie bands into a new and changing environment.
And was there any one thing that really kind of made you feel that it had to be you doing this?
Yeah, I think that no one was interested in putting out the artists, and I couldn't believe it, because now they're you know, they're quite generally what we've done. You know, we put out a few weird records, like and we did the last ever Pill session, which was a Trencher record, which just sounds like death. It's brilliant, but lots of the stuff we do is fairly commercial. I think I realised that these artists were saying big important things and didn't have a platform or an infrastructure to go to do that, and I thought my own musical talent was not anywhere near as great as those people, and I'd be better off dedicating my time to sort of serving and supporting than perhaps trying to plough my own musical furrow, and so that came about.
Tim?
Well, I played music at school, but I worked out pretty early on that I didn't want to be a musician. Like, I wanted to work in the music industry. And when I was like about 12 years old, my brother bought me an album by The Offspring, which was Smash, which was like one of the biggest records you know, of all time in punk rock, and it launched like Epitaph, and it launched Shock Records here, and to put on the map anyway. And I guess from that point on, I became familiar with the idea of Epitaph Records, which was the label it was on. From there I started buying their samplers, and I started discovering other bands like NoFX and Bad Religion and all this kind of stuff. And I guess when it got to the point where I was kind of ready to, when I was finishing school, I decided it was time for me to start a record label. Didn't really make sense. I didn't really know what it was. It was just, I was going to start a record label, and I did, and I released a record. I had $400 and I pressed some CDs, and I sold a bunch of them, and that was it, you know what I mean? And I guess I just sort of started hanging out with bands and getting to know people, and eventually I released a record by a band called Behind Crimson Eyes, which they're not with us anymore, but the first EP sold like 20,000 copies, and I was literally sitting in my parents' house, in my bedroom, just like, I don't know, just CD yeah, like just, I didn't even, I think back to it now, like I didn't even know what I was doing, but then there's, every quarter these checks were arriving from our distributor for like, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50,000, $60,000, and it's like, what the hell is this? Like, what am I doing? Like, something's going on. Anyway, obviously, I think that band for me kind of, at the time, pulled me into a space where they kind of took me along for the ride to a degree, because similar to what you said, they were a band in a scene, the sort of hardcore punk, emo, whatever you want to call it, but it was a scene that it's not really serviced. It's still quite ignored in Australia. And I guess they needed people to print their merch for them and book their vans for them, and you know, organise their interviews for them, that kind of stuff. And I guess by default I sort of became their manager. And from there I met my current business partner, Ben Turnbull, where we went on to form what we call the Staple Group, which is our parent company, which I had the Boomtown record label, and he had a company called Destroy All Lines, which specialises in club nights around Australia. We run weekly nights in all major cities. We put over 10,000 people a week through our doors. It's a really big business for us. It's also a tour promoter, and it's also one of the promoters of No Sleep Till Festival, which is our big festival I was telling you about. It goes on sale tomorrow. But I guess the thing is, like, it kind of spawned from necessity, like what we did, and the way we did it. Because as I said, no one was really servicing what we were doing. there's like labels like Resist Records, which are very DIY, very hardcore, still have massive releases like Parkway Drive. But I guess we always wanted to just push things a little bit further and sort of see how far we could take it. I guess also starting to get out there into the music industry and see, start to meet the players. You know that moment when like the guy from Warner calls you and says, "Oh, I'll come in for a meeting," and you're like, "Really? Wow!" And you go in there and you meet him and you're like so excited and
totally precocious and arrogant.
Yeah, and you leave.
Doing all wrong, and then they're like, "Oh shit, maybe we should employ that." It's like,
Yeah.
No, I don't really want to do it.
Exactly. So I had probably a couple of years of that kind of stuff going on, and I was all excited, and I was I lived in Melbourne, I was flying to Sydney, and I was having these meetings, and my mum was really proud of me and stuff. But it just became more and more clear that what I was doing, it made sense, and it all came back to that necessity.
It strikes me that the strength of you guys is that you've started companies, and you're the people who came up with the game plan and the philosophy, and you've carried it through. Whereas some of the larger organisations, possibly their game plan was formed 20, 30 years ago, and that's been passed down to somebody who may not even necessarily buy into it.
We're very lucky, like we really are, because we're able to run our own race. And I've sat there recently with some of my staff. I think I sat there with some of my staff for a beer after work, and we sat around, and I really like to motivate people, and I like to get people excited. But it's like, not going to blow our own trumpets, but there's been some amazing people in history, like David Geffen and Irving Azov and people like that. And it's like, there's no reason why we can't be amongst them if not be them ourselves, if you know what I mean. Like, and it's that moment when you actually realise that it's like you can do great things. You just got to put your mind to it and take advantage of opportunities. And I think that now more than ever, well, in my time anyway, the opportunities are just huge. Because while these Titanics are trying to do U-turns, like we're jumping over fences and we're like riding our skateboards down alleyways, and you know what I mean? Like we're getting wasted with wherever we need to be. We're flying here, we're flying there, and it gets done. You can sign a deal. Like I can say to a band right now, I'm going to sign you, and actually sign them. A major label can say that, and it might take 9 months.
Subject to corporate approval.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're, you spread yourself pretty thin, and I'm pretty sure you spread yourself pretty thin as well. If the label side of things really became a juggernaut, what would be the first thing that you'd probably consider dropping that you do outside of or would you
I employ over 30 people full time.
Yeah.
So I think collaboration's key as well. Like the way that we're set up is like, I've got on the label side, we have a great label manager. There's Toby, my partner as well, who's still involved in that. And the publishing, we've done a joint venture with Warner Chappell, who do all the admin, because that's one thing that major labels are very good at. On the media side, we've got 12 employees on that side as well. And so they all feed in, and they're all good people that appreciate the same vision and the things that that we're trying to achieve with it. And that's the thing. You can't do anything good by yourself. You need like minds and partners who will add something, bring some real value. And I think maybe what's gone wrong in major labels is the people that they've brought in are maybe great accountants, maybe people that it's hating on accountants. It's a bit hard. It's an easy target, but
no, but you're right.
People
right.
Are good at maybe the wrong things, and I think that what I try and employ, and I think it's by the sound of things you as well, the people with that kind of can-do attitude where they'll bring things and sort of run themselves a bit and add something of real value to the artist fundamentally.
Probably bringing this around to the Big Sound thing and other things that bring people together and allow the sharing of ideas and stuff. I would imagine that both of you guys probably relied pretty heavily on getting first-hand knowledge from people to set up your business. I mean, is it something that is this sort of thing of a lot of value to you, or is it something that you think needs to be learned in the trenches?
This for me is a huge value. Like, this is the second year where I'm like, I'm not going to Big Sound, and then the day before I've got on a plane and flown to Big Sound, because I just realised how important it is. Like, I spend all my year doing my work and talking to people and all that kind of stuff, but it's times like these where you get to spend 2 days out of the office in a beautiful sunny city, and you get to talk, like, you know, I get to meet Tim, I get to meet you. We get to talk, and we get to think about what we're doing, you know?
It's those chance meetings and things as well. It's
Yeah.
like it's a really nice idea that we've both been sort of ploughing away on similar ideas, I guess, and not ever met before. And the chances of us stumbling, I mean, like, you know, Smash was a great record that I was really into,
Yeah.
but like musically it's not where I'm at the moment. And I think that those ideals and things we wouldn't meet online, because I wouldn't necessarily be searching for the offspring and things that link through, or you know, to that world. But when you're here and you're all thrown together, you're like, well, there's, you know, you spot the similarities, and that's what's attractive, and you see those parallels in people, and that's what you try and.
I don't like, I'll be honest, I don't attend many of the conferences, like the panels. I don't get a lot of benefit out of that. Well, I might, but I don't go to them, so I don't know. But it's, as I said, meeting people like you, and just, you know, you sit down with someone, have a coffee, and you talk, and because you're in the environment and you're in the mood, you are talking, you know, philosophically. And I think that being able to talk about what we do philosophically is a really important thing.
Reaffirms it in yourself as well. There's nothing being
that's
tested by other people.
The plane ride home from a conference is always like, you're like writing things, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, wow, I really did some good stuff.
I imagine it probably allows you to kind of put things that you've done in the past year into perspective when you talk about them as well, because it'd be mad frenzy in your head of shit that you've got there going, and deals and stuff, and then when you have to explain them to somebody, you're probably going, oh,
yeah, perfect.
I did all that this year.
Yeah, and I think it keeps you on track as well, because if you start straying away from things, it's very easy to justify anything to yourself. I think as things move on, I think that when you meet up with a group of other people, you can be tested in the right way and check that, you know, you're still working in the best interest and being fully aware of everything else that's out there. And I think that would be, you know, if I came to one of these festivals and conferences even, and met an individual who was offering something far superior to what I was doing for bands, then I'm not arrogant enough to say that I wouldn't, you know, try and collaborate or learn from those people and take those techniques and apply it to giving better experiences to the artists that we work with.